I was chatting to a farmer yesterday on the phone, and the message was very worrying. We've seen in the news recently how farms are having to close. Well, this is partly down to all the different stringent measures that farmers are having to face. And one of those is these TB tests. Now, I've got to be careful here because the platform that I'm on doesn't like certain medical information being wrong. So I'm just going to reiterate that this is purely an opinion. It's just me theorising, even though I've spoken to a farmer. And of course, this isn't first hand, this is hearsay. So what you're getting is just my opinion. I have to say things like that because I've been banned 4 times on this platform on YouTube, and I've been demonetized as I am now. And so it's very difficult because I don't want to lose the whole channel, because there's a wealth of interviews with fascinating and interesting people who have woken me up and woken many others up. So on occasions, one has to talk a little bit in coded words so that you don't upset the very nice and benevolent people of YouTube, who are there to ensure that everything is true and accurate and nothing is taken down which is wrongfully taken down. Anyway, having got all that nonsense out of the way, so TB, this is the disease that we all know. I mean, we get tuberculosis, don't we? And we get injected when we're children. I'm not actually sure these days whether that's a necessary requirement, knowing what we know about Big Pharma and things like that. But it may well be. As I say, it's just an opinion. But cattle do seem to get it. And of course, we've thought that it comes from the badgers, and we've seen in recent years these drastic measures to get rid of TB from being moved from one bunch of cattle to another bunch of cattle by these badger culls, which are awful. People going out and shooting badgers willy-nilly. Now, of course, farmers may say that's absolutely necessary, and maybe it is. I don't know. You see, I'm a would-be farmer, not an actual farmer. One of these days, the land will be available, and hopefully the lovely Julia and I will be able to have our own little dairy herd and find out what's true and what's not true. Of course, we only aim to have small herds, not very large herds, and presumably the smaller the herd, the more you are able to spot any problems in advance. I'm not saying farmers aren't able to do that, professional farmers who do this, but some of the larger farms may have more of a problem, let's just say that. And of course, if you've got a large farm and you have, say, cattle that catches TB, and then it gets rife, that's a lot of cattle that have to be destroyed, and that's part of your livelihood, if not your whole livelihood, that's just gone down the Swanee. Whereas the smaller herd, of course, it's still just as devastating, I would imagine, but perhaps if you've only got to put down 4 or 5 cattle as opposed to 100 cattle, you can see where I'm going. Now, the farmer that I was talking to was saying that she was not sure that these tests that they do are accurate. Now, let's face it, we went through a time, did we not, in 2020, where there was I can't think of the word, a contagion, and we were all advised, were we not, to go and get tested in case we had this airborne virus, and people were encouraged to go and stick things up their nose. And then this was, I don't want to say the name of the test, because I'm sure that also is a warning bell for the platform I'm on. But it was just 3 letters. Perhaps if I give you 3 words that, you know, Peter caught radishes, you take those letters, you'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, point is, we were encouraged to take those tests, were we not? Stick them up our nose and hook out something. Now, some people have said that actually what was on the end of those testing tips was something that was not actually very good for us, and it was a means to get us having something in the body, but that's just hearsay again. I couldn't possibly say. But the point was, a lot of people were having these tests or other tests, and they went in cycles. And basically it's the same with the TB one, it seems, that actually if you search hard enough, you'll find all sorts of stuff that perhaps is from the past, or is in the atmosphere that is benign now, is dead, is gone, old cells, but it will come up and say, oh, yeah, there's a reading, and this reading is now in black and white, and therefore you've got to do something about the cattle. And that does not seem fair. So the farmer I was talking to was saying, are these tests legitimate? Are they doing what we did during the contagion times and really just over searching and finding a problem when there isn't a problem at all? And when you have to get rid of your cattle as a result of a test that may now not be accurate, the chances are that pressure is, that may be the straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak. And we're seeing, as I mentioned earlier, the farms are closing. Apparently, the farmer I spoke to said 3,000 farms she'd read had recently closed down. 3,000 farms up and down in the UK. That is a lot of farms. That's a lot of food producers who are not producing food. Now, we know what will happen. If farms go, then this is serious business. I don't understand why a lot of people don't seem to be concerned about this. They don't seem to understand. I mean, the link is so bleeding obvious, but people just seem to be not that interested. If farms go down, loads of them, all of them, most of them, then who's growing the food? And if you think the supermarkets are still going to be supplying food, well, you may have to think again. And if they are, what kind of food is it that they are supplying then? Is it food from overseas? Is it food that is adulterated with other substances? Is it synthetic food? Is it fit for human consumption? You've got to ask these questions, surely. And we're already are worried about what food is in the supermarkets, nutrient-free food, vitamin-deficient food, in fancy boxes, in colourful boxes, enticing you to buy, extremely cheap, and yet actually contains very little of health value, and probably full up with artificial flavouring, artificial colouring. And, you know, the advice is clearly that we should be moving away from the corporates, this big corporation takeover that is going on, that is pushing out all sorts of family businesses, all sorts of small traders, and putting in corporations instead to produce things, these dead entities. And of course, farmers are family-run businesses. And because the young members of the families are saying, well, Mum, Dad, I see how much hard work you're doing and there's no money in it anymore. I'm off. I don't want to be a farmer. And now we see with the inheritance tax that's likely to come in, 50% of the farm is going to go to the government. Thank you very much. This is all wrong. This is all plainly wrong, there to attack farming. Farmers are under attack. There is a war on farmers, which is totally ridiculous. This war is being waged by, well, let's say the WEF are pulling the strings of the government. We've seen the best boy, have we not? What now installed at number 10, the best boy, desperately trying to do everything for the WEF. Yes, sir, I'll make sure that we get that. We'll get rid of the farms. No problem at all there, sir, says the new Prime Minister. And it's a disaster, of course, and we're seeing all of this rolling out in front of our eyes. Well, as the farmer said to me, we need a bunch of people, lawful people, who can get together with the farmers and work out a way to move farms and farmers out of the government's jurisdiction, so that DEFRA cannot say you need to do this to your cattle. They cannot say that inheritance tax is relevant. If they can be moved out of that jurisdiction, and if farmers can understand that that is possible, then there is hope of saving not only our farms, not only the farming communities and the families and these knowledgeable people who know how to farm and grow food, but also those of us who depend on farmers for their food. We need to gather people together who have that knowledge to go round and push back and save our farms, because this is a war. You can't see the bombs, you can't see the explosions, you can't see the dead and dying, but they're there. People are selling up their farms and at a huge rate, which is an extreme worry. So we've got to push back. Solutions, we need the lawful people. I believe we can do it. I believe we can save the farming. I believe that we can get more farmers into it, small farms, and keep some of the large farms for the larger commodities. I think that we need both, but we need to act, and we need the people like you interested enough to save ourselves, and I think we can do it. Thank you for watching.